can see here on the main screen, we're talking about the man, Deshaun Watson. I've got a lot to say about this, and I'm sure you do as well. To, kind of break things down if you don't know what's going on, if you've been living under a rock, to give you a Cliff Notes version, he's got these allegations about potential, sexual misconduct, whatever you want to call it, things like that, within these women at a massage parlor that's happened. He's got about, 20-something cases or 20-something allegations, whatever it is.
It's enough that it's concerning. It's in the 20s.
So it is a high number. So obviously he didn't play last year. And if you've been keeping up with the Panthers and the Deshaun Watson case, if you watched any of our previous episodes, there was probably once every couple of weeks until after the trade deadline where, hey, Panthers are in play. The Panthers are interested. The Panthers are this. The Panthers are that. The Panthers are ready to make an offer. And we've been the only team throughout this whole process that has been ready from the beginning until now to strike a deal. Before I go on my tangent about how I feel about it, we don't know anything concrete yet. Tomorrow will be Friday when this episode comes out, and we will have a little bit more information, some insight as to what's going on. He's going in front of a grand jury for some of these things. We won't have a definitive answer, but we will have, some clarity in some areas. So, Dave, I'm going to start with you. First off, just give me your thoughts on the situation as a whole and, the Panthers' interest has been since last summer. It's been over a year. I mean, what are your initial thoughts on everything that's transpired over the past year involving him?
Yeah. So this is something we have been talking about. I mean, it feels like forever. I'm thinking before the draft last year is when, some of this stuff originally started coming up, and it's like it has not gone away since then. The Panthers and Deshaun Watson have been just connected the entire time. There were reports that the Panthers had a deal in place and Deshaun Watson wouldn't waive his no trade clause. I don't know if that's true, but people have said that. But obviously that was, going back to, last offseason or whatever. But, there's so many layers to this. Obviously, it's a very complicated situation. If you're talking about pure football, if you're talking about talent, if you're talking about quarterback, if you're talking about arm strength, if you're talking about playmaking ability, if you're talking about the ability to lead a team, take a team to the playoffs, win playoff games, do more with less, which he's done in the past. He's a superstar quarterback. When he is on his game, he's probably top 5 at least in the NFL. So it's so hard to look at that and just, say I'm not interested. But obviously with this legal situation, 20 is a lot of anything. 20 is a lot of hamburgers. 20 is a lot of high fives.
And except for $20, that doesn't get you much gas right now.
That does not get you much gas right now. But 20 is a lot of what charges, I guess. Are they all separate charges or 20 over 20 women? That's a lot of women who are
correct.
Calling your name in the wrong way. That being said, we all know that when this first started, I'm not saying the guy is innocent, but I am saying when all this started, some of the timing was very shady. It all kind of came out after he started saying, I don't want to be a Texan anymore. And then I think one of the lawyers involved somehow knew the owner of the Texans or something. So it sounded real shady when it started, but obviously if the guy has done some horrible things, you don't want to just brush it off like it's nothing, and you don't want to say anyone's a liar, but it's a very complicated situation. If everything comes out that, he's okay legally and everything like that, I mean, then obviously you want him on your team. But with the current situation he's in, we still have to keep a wait and see attitude, even though that some of these trade talks are picking up. And there was something else that came out that said Tepper had hired a private investigator to look into this for him, to see if it was going to come out okay or not. And apparently, whatever that investigator told Tepper made him feel like he needs to keep pursuing him because he's been persistent the entire time when it comes to, trying to work out a Deshaun Watson trade. And from what they're saying now is David Tepper has the Panthers, quote unquote, all in on trading for Deshaun Watson. So if nothing else, he believes Deshaun Watson is going to be fine in the end of this, and he wants to make him a Panther.
Well, before I get started here, I do want to say that obviously we don't know the answers yet. There could be answers tomorrow after this episode comes out, but I want to split this in two halves. I want to look at this, like you said, from a football perspective and then a real life personal perspective. So I'll start with the personal perspective first. In no way am I condoning, I don't think anybody is condoning any kind of behavior like that, or willing to look past that. Obviously, we don't know what's true and what's not true, what's real and what's fake. We don't have any concrete information. In today's age and information, I do want to say this, that we must hold out until the very end when all the evidence and everything is laid out on the table, because a lot of times, not saying it's not true, it very well could be true, but I want to see everything play out. I want to see all the evidence. I want to have everybody, say their piece and have their moments. That way we can get to the final conclusion and we can get to what we believe is the truth. That is what we want at the end of the day, the truth. So if this stuff is true, obviously it's a no-go. You can't do it. You can't go toward it. You're going to lose a lot of fans. You're going to piss a lot of people off. And at the end of the day, you're just not going to look like a wholehearted good person. And I think that would be a terrible move. I don't think the Panthers would do it. And even if, and another thing to do is that if it does end up being true, there's potential, obviously suspensions, maybe jail time, this and that. So it's not going to happen. So if it is any slight of the instance true, deal's over. Now back to the football perspective. And this is purely football I'm talking about. If you were looking at this from a football perspective, I've tried to tell people this that are Panthers fans, people that are just NFL fans. If you have the chance to trade for a elite quarterback, you must do it. I don't care about the picks. I don't care about we have to give up Christian McCaffrey. We have to give up Brian Burns. When you have a chance to draft an elite quarterback, you do it. This is the game. This is the game nowadays in the NFL. You have to have an elite quarterback to have any chance of winning big games. Look at some of these teams. Look at the Titans. Complete stacked team built around them. No quarterback. They don't go far in the playoffs. Look at the Colts, who just traded Carson Wentz. Completely stacked team. They don't have a quarterback to get to the playoffs. You have to have that guy. And people keep saying, oh, you can't trade the whole team to get rid of a guy. Yes, of course you can't trade the whole team, but you got to do what you got to do to get your guy. You got to do it. And if this stuff clears up and he's good to go and he can play and the Panthers can make a deal, they have to do this. They have to do this. And that's my final point, is that if you have a chance to make an elite quarterback, you do that deal, because when you start winning and you can see consistency at the quarterback position, all that nonsense is going to go away. We can take care of the rest. I know we don't have a ton of draft capital, maybe not a ton of cap space, but we can figure out the rest. Once you get that one guy in place, everything else you can put in place around him, but you need the one guy. If you get your guy, you got to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And to kind of echo what you're saying, if he checks out and everything's fine, you have a chance to pull off this trade, you have to go for it. I agree. When you have a guy like that under center, that's really what starts your championship timetable. Once you have that star quarterback, that's when you have those 10 years to build something around him. You can build, like you said, the Titans are a great example. You can build a great team around the quarterback, but if you don't have that guy that's going to go win you games, it makes it very, 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 very difficult to go anywhere in the playoffs. But if you have that guy in place, even if you lose a Christian McCaffrey, a Brian Burns, a couple of first-round picks, you have the next 10 or 12 years to start building around him and trying to pick up some of that momentum. And when you have a guy like that, you always feel like you have a shot. Every year, you're going to feel like you have a shot. Look at what we did with Cam Newton for years. Even if we didn't realize it at the time, most of those teams, especially on offense, were horrible. Were horrible. Those teams, you can make those teams in any offseason with the blink of an eye. He played with one really good tight end, and then the end of Steve Smith and the beginning of DJ Moore. Other than that, he played with guys who went to other rosters and either couldn't make the roster or barely contributed. Practice squad players, a lot of them. Many of the names who left we never heard of again. And that's because we had that guy at quarterback who made that much of a difference, who you could put him out there with a bunch of scrubs and he was still going to go win. He was still going to go put you in a position to make the playoffs. We won the NFC South 3 straight years with very, very mediocre talent around Cam Newton in a good defense. Or some defenses were great. Some were pretty good. Some were just whatever. But, it really solidifies your point that if you have that guy, that buys you 10 to 12 years to try different things around him and see what works and experiment and try to put together a team that works, a team that can get into the playoffs and get some momentum and hopefully make a championship run. But if you don't have that guy, well, then you're just sitting there building great teams, and it's most likely just going to be wasted because it's not going to go anywhere.
They call it quarterback purgatory, and it's not a good place to be because
I prefer to call it quarterback hell because that's what it feels like. It doesn't feel just okay. It feels pretty damn bad.
Because listen, you look at a team like Tennessee, every single fan of that team, maybe besides Ryan Tannehill's family, knows that they've got a damn good team, but when it comes to make a play in the playoffs, they don't think they have the guy that can do it. And they know that. And they know that going into every year that they're going to make the playoffs and have a good run. As long as they got Derrick Henry and as long as they got a good defense, they'll be contenders, but they will not be there at the end. I'm not saying offensive line doesn't matter, but damn, Joe Burrow just went to the Super Bowl with a piss-poor offensive line, a really, really great receiver, and an average defense. And you know why? Because when it mattered most, he stepped up and made plays. He was in his second year? Second year. I mean, people don't understand. I don't get it. I understand. They don't want – here's someone wanted to bring up. People say, oh, we'll give up 3 first-round picks. If you go back, and I know this is still really early, if you go back, the Panthers' 3 first-round picks, Brian Burns, Derek Brown, J.C. Horn. I know J.C. Horn was hurt this year, unfortunately. If anywhere in between those picks they say, hey, I could get rid of 1 or 2 of those guys and trade for Deshaun Watson, you best believe I'm the first person to click send on that trade.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Tanner, first of all, that's a good point, and I agree with you because, I guess what I would say almost to solidify what you're saying is just because you have first-round picks doesn't mean they're going to hit. Those 3 guys you just named are 3 good players. Those are picks that turned out well. What about first-round picks spent on Kelvin Benjamin and Vernon Butler and Jeff Otah? Those are wasted first-round picks. We don't know what these guys are going to be. We could miss on our next 10 first-round picks. I mean, historically, we've done pretty well with first-round picks, but my point is you don't know who these players are. Deshaun Watson is a superstar. If you can trade for a superstar for 3 unknown players, I mean, easily.
Exactly. And that drives the point home. People, they get obsessed with these picks, and I get it. They're young, they've got potential and, rookie contracts. Yeah, absolutely. Not every first-round pick is a home run. It doesn't matter where you're picking at. And if you got a chance to give some of those up for a proven commodity at the quarterback position, I don't know, man. That is a tough deal to walk away from if you're asking me. So I don't know what all the deals what the trade would encompass. I would imagine at this point that the Panthers probably already have the specific deal that they would do if this all clears out. Let's say tomorrow, for instance, clear, everything's good to go, he's good to play. They already have got their trade package ready to go to Houston. I don't know who it's going to be, but I would imagine they have a pretty good idea of who would be in that package.
Absolutely. I'm trying to look at the Russell Wilson trade because I would imagine it would look something like that. I don't remember if it was 2 first-round picks or 3 first-round picks, and a couple other picks and some players. I mean,
Listen, you can't give up any second and third round picks if you ain't got any, all right?
that's facts. Bro, we don't need to draft. Why? What's the
we
point of
don't
drafting?
we don't hey, if you don't have any picks, then you can't trade. You can't give them up, so you're good.
Yeah, I would imagine it would. It's hard to tell because it's such a slimy situation. It's hard to guess what it would take as far as a trade goes and what that would look like. But let me reemphasize to anybody listening that we are talking about the innocent Deshaun Watson. We are not talking about a Deshaun Watson who's done any horrible things. So we will let it play out the way it plays out. And if he comes out of this as an innocent man or a man without a felony, we then we can talk football. Right now, we're just talking X's and O's and the player Deshaun Watson.